What's up, guys? Here at Garrett's house. We're here to talk about his 1979 Pontiac Firebird. He bought it when he was 16 years old. And that was July 1st, 2006. And I would just have been going into the 5th grade. This car is kind of what started it for me and made me want to build a second gen, Chevy guy, of course. But yeah, this is where it all began. We're gonna get him over here, show him, have him talk about what's going on under the hood and with the rest of the car. Going to tell us about his car, give us a little quick rundown of the history and the current setup, go for a ride, do a little bit of that. So,
hello, I am Garrett. I'm the madman behind that blind marrow thing, you could say, turning wrenches. This is my 79 Firebird. I've had it for 13 friggin' years now. It's one of those things that you love it one day and hate it the next. But I paid $1,050 for this car. It was a real pile. It still kind of is, depending on who you are. But it's kind of rusty. It wasn't junk when I got it. Had to put a quarter on it, patch the rocker, patch the other quarter, patch the bottom of the doors. I changed the front clip. It's a 79, but you might be able to see this is a 77, 78 nose. And I changed it because I don't really like the 79 nose. It's got 77 grills in it. It also has the 78 and older style fender flares on it because I don't care for the 79 fender flares. And we got the same thing going on back here. These are the 78 and older style spoiler ends because, once again, I don't care for the 79 stuff. So, I mean, I really wanted a 70 to 78, or 70 to 73, but I'm a poor boy. So we did the doors back, we fixed everything because I was planning on changing the front clip anyway because it was just a plain Firebird and I wanted to put Trans Am fenders on it and change the nose and everything. So once that was all done, then we decided to do something about the rear end situation because it had a broken spring, come to find out. It was leaning, and so I put new springs on it, posi rear end, 373 gears, slapper bars, all the stuff that's on Adam's car now, pretty much, used to be on this car.
I paid for them.
So, and I took the 400 that was in it and put a cast stroker crank in it. And let's just say it didn't end well. I had that for not quite a year, and then the crank broke. So, that's a whole nother story. And it's got 6x4 cylinder heads from a 77 W72 400 motor, which are not exactly great heads, but they're decent. Those are the heads that have always been on it since I started putting motors in the car. So after the first one blew up, I took 6 of my good rods and got 2 matching rods, and I got a forged crank, and that lasted about a year and a half before, what do you know, one of them rods come apart. At that point, the fastest this car had been was 1210, like 110 mile an hour. During the second motor phase, I bought the tranny for this car out of a guy from North Carolina who supposedly built trannies, and it wasn't nothing special. Come to find out, it had really nothing in there that he said it had for upgraded stuff. So I built the 350 turbo, put a Transgo shift kit in it, 5 clutches in every clutch pack except the front one, obviously, but all kinds of tricks done in there. Still will shift itself automatically, but it has manual control. It's a stage 2 Transgo kit. It has a Redneck 3500-ish stalk inverter, which I guess Redneck is no more, but the same guy runs Freak Show. It's the company now. So after the second motor blew up, at some point during that phase 2, before I put that first motor in the car, is when I changed the front end. By the way, I kind of missed that part, but we changed, put the Trans Am fenders on the 77 nose. But after the second motor blew up, which is a terrible story because I was racing at night under fire, and I was down to the last 13 cars in Pro Class when it decided to let loose. But that's a whole other story. But that was like July, end of July, I think, 2010. So this thing got parked, and I really wasn't sure what I was going to do with it at that point. I mean, I wasn't going to get rid of it or anything crazy, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to spend the money on another built motor. Thought about just throwing together something so I could drive it for a while and then maybe build something later. So I happened to come across a 455 complete engine, stock 455 2-barrel 71. I paid like $400 for it. So I took that short block, put my top end on it, and it was in this car until the end of last year. And it went, I think 1217's the best it went with that stock bottom end. Unknown really condition wise, tore it down, it looked okay, so I ran it. So I knew that it's, who knew when it was going to go. For a long time I was scared to run it because I was scared of stock rods, but the rods never failed me. But
The oil pressure did.
yeah, putting a Chevy motor in it was never an option. So I'm a Pontiac guy, come from Pontiac folk. So I wasn't into that sort of thing. I didn't just want a Firebird or Trans Am, I wanted a Pontiac. And the first time you get a hold of Pontiac, especially like a 455, you'll see why. The extreme torque, it's unlike nothing else. So anyway, last year, Pontiac Nationals, unloaded the car, drove it around the pits, because I had gotten to a point where I had nowhere to keep the car at my house, so it was kind of just stashed in my dad's garage, and I hadn't been driving it. It very rarely got, even run, but I raced it the last couple of years, Pontiac Nationals. Drove it around the pits. We were going to leave that night because it was Thursday. It was the day to get ready. Friday, Friday starts the show. Fired it up to move it Thursday night, and what do you know? I just mysteriously had no oil pressure. The pressure leaf valve was stuck in a pump. So I decided, I messed with it a little bit, and there was no hope in that picture. So I figured this thing was probably, I'd got my money's worth out of that bottom end. And decided to just put it on the trailer and take it home. Pulled the motor out, pulled it apart, and the rod bearings didn't look very good in it. It looked like something had gone through the pump. Who knows, bearing material, who knows, but there was no saving it. It was time. That motor was done. There was no slapping an oil pump in it and slamming it back together, because it was not going to last. So I took my 455 block and crank, stock crank. Remember this, stock Pontiac cast crank, good. Chinese cast crank, no good. So, took the short block to Kaufman, and they put H-beams in it, forged Icon pistons, bearings, whatever, put cam bearings in it, bored it 30 over. And then I took my 6X4 heads, and after porting Adams LS heads, I decided I needed to do something. I didn't want to go crazy and do an aftermarket or head type deal yet, even though I do have a set of heads stashed. I wanted to see what I could get out of these iron heads. So I ported the iron heads, and then had another good valve job done on them, and a cleanup cut on them. I went one step bigger in a cam. I was running a Comp Extreme Energy 274 cam, which according to some people is junk, but it sure works pretty good for me. So I went to the XE284. It's hydraulic flat tappet cam. Car's got a set of 1 3/4 inch primary headers on it. They're Headmans. That is an Edelbrock Torker intake. That is outdated, doesn't get built anymore. They came out with a Torker 2. I opened that one up to ram air 4 gasket size to match the heads I did. That's a 750 Holley that was an old school 2-circuit idle 750 that I put a Proform open main body on it, got a billet base plate, and I've got a newer 750 secondary metering block, so I basically converted it to a 4-corner idle. And it's got a eBay special billet HEI distributor in it with an MSD module with a rev limiter in it. It's got this fancy CVF bracketry setup on it that I actually bought years ago, and it didn't fit worth a damn, and they redesigned the one bracket, and I got the bracket, and then I just didn't care to mess with it until I put this motor in the car, so I decided I'd try it, and so far it's been working pretty good. Looks good. But yeah, so far with this here, it's somewhere between 9.5 and 10 to 1 compression now, I figure. I run 93 octane pump gas in it, and the car, last time I weighed it, was just under 3,700 pounds with me in it, and it didn't have the mufflers on it then either, so there's a little extra weight. It's probably about 3,700. So far it's been 1155, and I think it's got more in it. I think for sure in better air it'll go 40s, and I'd like to even try to see about going 30s. Got a couple tricks I'd like to try on it. And basically out of a, you know, what was getting me there? It's a 455. Obviously it's got aftermarket rods and pistons in it, but they're factory Smog era cylinder heads that I've massaged, and an old outdated intake.
And the whole reason he massaged the heads was to hurt some feelings, because there's a local guy that has some high dollar aftermarket heads, and he was a stick guy, and he put an automatic in the car, and it went $11.99, and he was just, you know, so excited. He had 11-second street car, so Garrett ported the heads up, and
so I'm deep in the 11s with stock junk. I guess that's kind of the goal here. I've got some parts I've been gathering to build another engine. I'd like to build another 400 block stroker with some Metalbrock heads and roller cam. I'd like to have a 10-second pump gas street car, but I kind of just wanted to see what I could do with this. So far I'm pretty happy with it. So I think it's got more in it. Yeah. As far as front suspension, well, we'll start in the front. The front has Pro Touring F bodies, pretty much everything. Their upper control arms, their springs, their lower arms. It's got their sway bar. It's got their sway bar brace on it. It has a set of strange single adjustable shocks on the front. So on the street I can tighten them up, and then when I take it to the drag strip I can loosen them up. Basically I kind of wanted this car to do everything. I didn't want a full tilt drag car. I didn't want a full tilt road race car either, but I wanted a car that would handle. So as you can see right now, it's kind of in drag race mode with the slicks and skinnies on it. Normally it's got 10-inch reproduction Pontiac rallies in the back and 8-inch ones in the front. See, it's got G braces on it from Pro Touring F body.
oh, there, that's the...
And it has their solid frame bushings. Now them G braces, they do the job. They're a pain in the ass, let me tell you. So, it's got a rebuilt Jeep steering box in it. Yeah, since I ordered a 600 series box, and then they just suddenly became discontinued and I couldn't get my hands on one. So that may change someday, maybe. I know Borgeson's got some new box out, so maybe that'll change. This is much better than the stock one, but it's still not as good as I'd like it to be.
Yeah, mine's got a little slop in it.
It's got that little bit of play, which is, with that series box, it's gonna be okay. So in the rear, after I got tired of what's on Adam's car, I went with Calvert split monos, springs in the back. They're a 1-inch drop is what they advertise them as, and the back of this car came down way more than an inch of where it was, but it worked out because it looks awesome. It's got, you know, their Caltrac bars on it, obviously, and I've got a set of single adjustable Calvert shocks on the back. It's got Global West, Del Alum, whatever, the Del Rin with aluminum sleeves, bushings, and the shackles. The front's obviously a solid bushing because that's how the Caltrac setup works.
Everybody says Caltracs ride like shit. They don't. Car actually rides better than it ever has. Rides better than my car.
Yeah, if you had them cranked up really tight, maybe it'd be a problem. But I mean, I've preloaded mine the way they say. I think it's like a quarter turn, and you got to make sure you got a driver sitting in there when you preload them, because it will make a difference. Because I preloaded them the first time with nobody in the car, and then it wanted to drive right into the freaking wall, so it wasn't cool. So I had to have my dad sit in the driver's seat, and I jacked the rear end up just enough so I could get in there and readjust them later. So that's important. Since then it goes straight. It didn't really 60-foot better once I changed the rear suspension. Actually, I changed everything all at the same time pretty much. I was really hoping it would 60-foot better. At that time it was high 1.6s with the old motor in it, it didn't really go any better. However, 2 years ago at Pontiac Nationals, this car went 167, like for 15 passes I made or whatever. There was, I don't know, something like that. Every freaking pass it went 167 except one, and I think some of that was my doing. I don't think it was the car's problem. So it's definitely consistent. So, and you know, it's got competition engineering subframe connectors on it too. Obviously, it's got to have something in there. Otherwise, I'd have twisted this car in half by now. So, other than that, you know, nothing too crazy going on. It's got some Summit seats in it. Doesn't have a roll bar in it yet, but unfortunately, it's going to have to get one.
Yeah, the old Summit seats, really nice. The new Summit seats that are in my car, they suck. Don't buy them.
All iron motor. I've had to learn the hard way that you need a very good radiator for. It's got a cold case, 1.25 tube, 2-row radiator with dual 14-inch spall fans.
All right, Champion radiator for sale. Anybody interested, hit me up. If it's a 1979 Firebird.
Better edit that out.
Hey, Champion radiator for sale. Good for a stock motor.
Just taking pictures of it.
Yeah, well, it'll be alright. No one will see it.
Okay, back to action. I really don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I think you covered everything.
Pretty much covered everything. Anybody has any questions, you know, hit it up in the comments. And, you know, I'll see it. Adam will see it, whatever, and I'll answer it. Oh, and before we get too carried away, because I'd be the guy to say this, I want to point this out. I have the shaker, okay? When a car's driven on the street, it usually gets the shaker. The velocity stack is for the drag strip. That's all the filter I can get under that shaker with the hood, so I feel like that might be a little restrictive, but I've never had an issue, but I just run it at the track with the velocity stack. So it does have a shaker, and it's not hooked to the bottom of the freaking hood. It's functional. It shakes. I'm not that guy, because I'd be the guy calling him out on that too, saying, well, what the hell, why isn't the shaker hooked up? Why do you have a shaker? So here it is.
Alright guys, so there you have it. This is Garrett's Pontiac Firebird, or Trans Am, whatever you'd like to call it, and this is kind of where it all started for me, you know, at a very young age. And kind of what, you know, inspired me to do that. Also, someone when I went to high school was like, "Here, why are you a car guy? You're blind, you'll never be able to drive." Well, fuck you, I can now. So part of that's trying to have the best thing around, except for this will kick my ass now, so gotta work on that. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe, ask questions, all of that good stuff. I hope you enjoy it, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Thank you.